Hey, welcome back to the shop. Whoa, that was scary. That's some Seinfeld bad lighting, villain face there. Anyway, welcome back to the shop. Welcome back to the project. It's a 1966 Volvo Amazon wagon. If you're new to the channel, we started with a 63 that was real rusty. Did a lot of work to that, got it running, got it driving, took it to a meet, had a lot of fun with it, and then it sat for 6 months, 4 months. With the intention of me doing rust repair on it, which I never did. That's what all those stands are for. I lost motivation on it. It was too much for me to take on at the moment, so I sold it to a buddy. And then like 3 weeks later, this thing pops up in Middle Georgia for a steal, and it's way less rusty than the other one. And for the past about 2 months of change, we've been getting this from basically not abandoned, but forgotten and ignored to a running, driving vehicle. It has been fun. Parts of it have been fun. It's been a slog here lately, but we've made a lot of good progress. So I'm going to walk you through what has happened in the past week and a half, 2 weeks since I've done it. So actually, the biggest thing that has been done, you can't actually see. This car now has all new, 100% new suspension and steering components on it. You can sort of see I've not cleaned up the shop yet. I just finished it today. So I really do need to go through and clean this up. But you can see here some of the old stuff. There's an old tie rod, an old ball joint. There's the old shock. This stuff was absolutely wasted. There's an old bushing for the sway bar. Yeah, it was really, really bad. I was actually planning on ignoring most of this and driving it as is to Kyle's, but I was really, I concentrated on the rear suspension. I got the parts to do that a while back because I thought that was the worst. Turns out it was just as bad as the rest of it. But yeah, that was a slog. There are 8 bushings to be pressed out in the back, plus 2 large rectangular bushings for the axles, plus the shocks. The fronts are 2 round bushings on the lowers, 2 upper bushings, ball joints, tie rods, ball joint lower, ball joint upper, tie rods, center link, idler arm bushing, which actually I didn't do because there's no play in it. Yeah, it's been a slog, but it's done. The car rides much better now, it steers much better, it feels way less sketchy going down the road. I'm super happy with that. There's also some changes in the engine bay, so let's take a look at that. Let me get my, oh, hang on, move my pop-all light here. There we go. So, what is new under here? Oh, ooh, that's shiny. We now have an alternator. It has the Swedish Embassy alternator kit on there. That is a remarkably cost-effective, about $40 at the local parts store, maybe a little bit more than that. GM 3-wire, I guess is what they call it. Yeah, 3-wire alternator. So now we have reliable, stable charging voltage across the rev range. I still need to get rid of the old voltage regulator there. What else we do? Oh, we changed oil, we adjusted the valves, we broke the PCV valve, so I had to find another one. Fuel has been a problem and continues to be a problem. We'll talk about that in a minute. But in conjunction with the alternator, we've got all new wiring for the alternator. Our nice battery terminals up there. Cable goes down here to the starter. Charging cable goes directly to the alternator. The red wire loops around to the charging post back there. The white wire goes to the original, I think it's the red wire, whatever was on the smaller post there, the voltage regulator. So the amp light in the car works as it's intended, and the car just has much more stable charging now. Oh, new ground cable as well. Brakes are still working great, clutch is still working great, steering is greatly improved. Overall, mechanically, with the exception of the fuel, this car is pretty solid now. Oh, the windshield. It does actually have a good windshield in it now. There's some bug splatter on it already. Unfortunately, it leaks pretty bad. I haven't decided if I'm taking it back to that glass shop or not. You know, they did the job cheap. And there's really, like, with what they charged, there's no expectation of a warranty or anything on it. So I don't know. I'll probably just go talk to them though. Yeah. I guess still got to get air filters on there. Got some ideas for that. But apart from that, under the hood, we're basically done. Now, let's talk about the fuel issues. So, this has made me feel so stupid so many times, and I've gotten so frustrated with it. I'm actually going to draw out what the tank looks like. So, hey, check it out. This is how simple this tank is. It is a metal box. Actually, it's drawn a little bit shallower because it is a very shallow tank. It's a metal box, right? Here's our fuel pickup. It is literally just a straw that comes in at the top of the tank and goes down at an angle and sucks fuel from down here at the bottom. It is an open tube. There is no filter, there is no strainer, there is no nothing on there, right? And there's a fitting here, trust me, and this connects to the hard line that runs up to the engine there. This hard line I actually replaced. I ran a new 5/16 NICOP line all the way to the front with a flare fitting back here, right? So I'd had issues where the car would seem to fuel starve out. And every time it fuel starved, that filter would be dry as a bone, and that filter would be dry as a bone. Now, it's not uncommon for that to have very little fuel in it. It basically just dribbles in from the back there and kind of gets somehow, in defiance of physics, pulled out the front there. That's a common thing. This filter is under pressure, not much, but a little, so it should almost always be full. That's about halfway now. It really should be more full than that, but like that would make the car run okay for a bit, right? So every time this thing runs out of fuel, I pop the hood. Both of those filters are bone dry. There's nothing in them. You can disconnect the fuel feed and the carbs over there. It doesn't spit out fuel, but you can feel air moving back and forth. So the first thing, about a week and a half ago, I was convinced, well, it must be an issue with this crappy old fuel pump. I'd ordered a new mechanical pump because I don't know why I don't want electric on there. I just think it's ugly. And it frustrates me. Like, these cars ran for 50, 60 years on mechanical fuel pumps. There's no reason why it shouldn't work. And because I have the filter before the pump, it's not even sucking up any trash or anything to make it stop working. And the pump is obviously working because it'll sit there and move air. It just won't pull any fuel. And I'm like, all right, well, let's just try and banish the problem. I'm going to put an electric pump on it. So that's what I did. Put the electric pump on it, plumbed it all in, got key on 12 volt for it, fired it up, it spits out fuel nice and strong. Okay, cool. I think it's fixed. So I drive it to work. Makes it work fine. That's like 7-8 miles, right? And at lunch that day, I said, okay, well, let's go beat on it and see what it does. I made it another 3 miles before the car just completely died again, and it was getting no fuel, even with the electric fuel pump. So I had to strap the boat tank on the roof, drive home, swap cars, all that stuff. Get home, and I'm racking my brain. I'm like, why in the world? Like, I know there's rust in the tank, but I'd convinced myself that wasn't a problem. I'm like, why in the world is this an issue? So given that the tank is rusty, you've got to remember that, I'm gonna go wide here, right? I convinced myself that there was like a pinhole leak in this tube. And if there's an air leak in this tube, anytime the fuel level drops below wherever that hole is in this tube, it's going to be sucking air and not able to actually pull fuel out of the tank. So I said, okay, screw that. There's a drain fitting down here. Let's use that, right? So then I just put the fitting on there and then ran it up here and plugged this off. Got rid of that. Said, okay, well, that is always submerged in fuel. That'll fix it. So I did that. Finished up all the suspension work today, took it out on a test drive, and I made it 1.75 miles before it died again. And it did the exact same thing, where it felt like it was running out of fuel, and then it eventually just stumbled and died, and that was it. Pulled over, fuel filters are dry, like it's doing the same thing it always did. This time, though, I did have the presence of mind to disconnect it here on the fuel pump, and I blew with my mouth air backwards into this. And at first, it was really hard to blow, and then it kind of like let loose and went, and then I could hear and feel it bubbling in the tank. I realized at that point what's happening, and the rust in this tank is not like fine powdery residue rust. It is chunks of like like flake, like think of very coarse, very coarse sand, almost extremely small, fine gravel. It's that consistency, like flakes of stuff. Like actually, red pepper flakes is a good analogy for the size and texture of most of the rust that's sitting in the bottom of this tank. So I've realized now what's happening is all that red pepper flake rust is floating around in the bottom here, and since I'm using the lowest point of the tank to pull my fuel from, it's all sitting, it's collecting in there and it's blocking it up, and it's just sort of like creating this matrix of shit that gasoline can't flow through. So obviously the fix here is to pull the tank, right? That is the right thing to do. Pull the tank, clean it out, maybe line it with POR or something, be done. I don't want to do that. It's not even that it's hard to pull the tank. It's really not. It's some Phillips screws around the top. It's the filler hose and a grommet. I just have a really bad feeling about it. I feel like if I put pressure on this thing to take it out of the car, I'm going to find out it's paper thin and punch a hole through it, and then I'm really screwed. Man, I don't know. I would like to avoid pulling the tank if I can. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out what I'm going to do, Googling some stuff, and I start thinking, because I did a lot of motorcycle stuff, I start thinking about how motorcycles have like mesh filters on their petcocks that screw up into the bottom of the tank usually. And sometimes it's, the main filter, sometimes it's just a pre-filter, but I'm like, man, if I could find something like that with an 1/8" pipe thread, that would allow me to poke up through that like layer of silt on the bottom of the tank and make sure that gas is always going in the top, and whatever, gets sucked down to it can just suck down to the bottom and it'll be fine. And I didn't know where I was going to find this until I Googled apparently just the right combination of terms and found this. Better yet, it's on the shelf at Tractor Supply because it is a Ford and Massey Ferguson part. If you need this, it is Tractor Supply SKU number 0237097. It was like $8. So here's my theory, right? I'm still going to use, because I really do think there's something wrong with that pipe as well. So I'm still going to use the drain of the tank for my fuel supply, but I'm going to take my existing fitting out, screw this in, and then the bottom of the tank will be about here. The silt will probably come up to, around here or so, and I've still got 2/3 of this mesh screen, which should be mostly unobstructed. Not a ton of surface area, but I think it's enough to do what I need to do. Then I get a fitting. Obviously this is not the right one. I need a 1/4" flare fitting, but I get a fitting to go in there to change it over to the flare fitting, the 5/16 tube that goes to the front of the car. And then, I still have the filter and the paper filter and all that to provide more surface area. But I hope this is going to do what I need it to do, and at least let me drive this thing for a little bit. Again, I know I should pull the tank. I know that's the right thing to do. I can't shake the bad feeling I have about it. And I've lined a couple of motorcycle tanks and they're okay, but there's a lot more people that have created a lot more problems by trying to line a fuel tank and not getting it absolutely perfect. Because if you don't get it perfect, then all that lining that you put in starts peeling off and then becomes like latex paint, and then you're really screwed. So I think long term, if I decide to keep the car, which I probably will, I think the right thing to do is to just get a new fuel tank. They're pretty spendy though. I think it's about, for everything, it would be about $600, which is not nothing. So I might have to save my pennies for a while for that, but I think that's what it's going to get long term. Hopefully this will work for a while in the short term. I did also order a new fuel pump from Amazon. Amazon fuel pump. funny enough, it was like $12. It's an MTC brand. It's the same brand that everybody else is selling for 60 or 70. But maybe that's because it's dry. I really don't want to hear like, I don't want to be calling ducks while I'm driving down the road. So we're going to keep that as a spare, because there actually doesn't seem to be anything wrong with the original fuel pump on there. So anyway, that's the plan. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. Tell me if you think it'll work or if it won't. Tell me if you think I'm gonna somehow burn the car down with this, which I'm not, but whatever, you know. Yeah, we'll see. We'll save up some money and hopefully get a new tank and sending unit and all the accoutrement and stuff at some point, but that day is not today. Today we're just trying to make it work, and we're just trying to drive the thing 5 hours to drink beer with our friends in a field. So yeah, if we can do that, I'll be happy. Until next time, thanks for checking out the channel. Thanks for hanging out. If you like this kind of stuff, don't forget to hit subscribe and drop me a like and a comment. That really helps as well. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time.